In 2015, the U.S. Air Force awarded Northrop Grumman a contract for a new long-range strike bomber. It was the beginning of a quiet but historic project, the B-21 Raider. At the time, many wondered if this jet would ever move beyond a concept. But now in 2025, the story has changed. The Air Force is not testing just one aircraft. There are now two B-21 Raiders flying, proof that this program is no mere prototype. For decades, the legendary B-2 Spirit was unmatched in the sky. But it came with heavy costs, long maintenance, and constant struggles to keep it mission ready. The Raider promises something different: stealth, endurance, and a design made to last. So why does the arrival of a second B-21 matter so much? Because this marks the shift from experiment to real fleet. Picture it: sleek stealth bombers rolling out of their hangars at Edwards Air Force Base. Machines built for missions no rival air defense can stop. If you care about the balance of power, this jet is rewriting the rules. This is the story of the B-21 Raider and how it is redefining air power. In 2015, a quiet but historic decision was made by the U.S. Air Force. The long-range strike bomber contract was awarded to Northrop Grumman, a company already known for building the B-2 Spirit. This new project would aim to create a bomber for the next generation, one that could go deeper, survive longer, and adapt faster than anything built before. The following year, in 2016, the aircraft was given its official name, the B-21 Raider. The title was chosen to honor the famous Doolittle Raiders of World War II. Those men had launched a daring mission in 1942, striking the heart of Japan in a moment of great risk. The new bomber was designed to carry that same spirit of reach, surprise, and courage. For many, this naming was symbolic. It showed that America was looking beyond the Cold War past of the B-2 and toward a new era of technology. It was not just another stealth bomber, it was a statement, a sign that the United States was preparing for the challenges of the 21st century. Yet in 2016, very few understood how quickly the program would advance. Many thought it would be another slow and costly project. But behind closed doors, digital design tools and new engineering methods were already speeding up its progress. The Raider was moving faster than expected. So the next big question became clear. When did the world first see the B-21 take shape? In December 2022, the world finally saw the B-21 Raider in public for the first time. The location was Palmdale, California, where generations of America's most advanced aircraft had taken shape. On that day, a sleek silver bomber rolled out from its hangar under bright lights and heavy security. It was the first new U.S. stealth bomber to be revealed in more than 30 years. For many, it felt like watching history repeat itself. The B-2 Spirit had been unveiled in the late 1980s, and for decades it stood unmatched. Now, another aircraft, sharper, smarter, and more adaptable, was ready to take its place. The media quickly drew comparisons. They pointed out the familiar flying wing design, the dark, smooth curves, and the hidden engines. But they also stressed the difference. The B-21 was built to be more affordable, more sustainable, and easier to keep mission-ready than the B-2 ever was. It was a bomber designed not just for today's missions, but for decades of future wars. Still, even with all the excitement, doubts remained. Could this bomber actually fly? Would it perform as promised, or was it only a beautiful shell? The questions grew louder in military circles, in Congress, and across global capitals. Everyone wanted to know the same thing. When would this new Raider finally lift into the sky? In 2023, the B-21 Raider proved it was no longer just a concept. At last, the bomber completed its maiden flight. The test took place under tight security at Edwards Air Force Base in California. There, generations of American aircraft have been tested before entering service. The sight of the B-21 rising into the sky marked a turning point. For years, many had wondered if it was only a sleek mock-up, built to impress, but not to perform. But the moment its wheels left the runway, the world knew it was real. This was not just a model, it was a flying reality. The flight was only the beginning. After that, the Air Force began a steady test cadence, with regular flights to check systems, sensors, and controls. Each step moved the Raider closer to operational service. Yet what made this bomber different from its predecessors was not only its stealthy design. The B-21 was the first bomber to embrace digital engineering from the very start. It was built with a digital twin, a virtual copy that allowed engineers to test upgrades, fix problems, and cut delays long before the aircraft ever flew. This digital approach promised fewer setbacks and lower costs than the painful history of earlier bombers. It showed that this was not just another long, troubled program. It was a project built for the future. Still, the real leap was yet to come. Because while the first flight proved the Raider could fly, the arrival of a second aircraft would mean something even greater. So why does the entry of another B-21 into testing matter even more? In 2025, the story of the B-21 Raider reached a major milestone. A second test jet officially joined the flight test fleet at Edwards Air Force Base. This may sound small, but in the world of advanced bombers, it was historic. For years, the program had only one aircraft. One plane meant slow testing, limited data, and the constant risk of delays. But with a second Raider, the program shifted from being just a prototype to becoming a true multi-aircraft program. This was the moment the B-21 began to look like a real fleet. The difference was immediate. Two aircraft meant more flights, more data, and faster answers to complex engineering questions. It allowed the Air Force to test systems in parallel, not just one at a time. It also proved something critical, that the design was scalable. If two Raiders could fly, then dozens could be built and delivered. For the engineers, it was a sign that their digital tools and new methods were working. For the military, it was proof that the Raider was no longer just a dream. It was on the path to becoming an operational bomber, ready to enter squadrons and bases. And for America's allies and rivals alike, the message was unmistakable. The Raider was not just a test article hidden in hangars. It was now multiplying. It was real. It was flying. And it was coming. This was the moment the B-21 stopped being an experiment and started being the future of American air power. But that raises the next question. What exactly makes this bomber so different from anything that came before? One of the greatest changes with the B-21 Raider is not only what it looks like, but how it was built. From the beginning, the bomber was designed with full digital engineering models. This meant that every piece of the aircraft, from the wings to the sensors, had a virtual copy, a digital twin. Engineers could test, adjust, and refine every system in the digital world before it was ever placed into the real aircraft. This approach saved precious time and cut enormous costs. It allowed the Air Force to integrate new technologies with far less delay than in past programs. The digital twin was not just a tool, it was a complete shift in how advanced aircraft are made. But the innovation did not stop there. The B-21 was also designed with an open systems architecture. That means its systems can be updated and replace the way software is on a computer. New sensors, new weapons, or new defensive tools can be added without redesigning the entire plane. This was the weakness of older bombers like the B-2, which required costly and complex overhauls for every upgrade. The Raider avoids this problem, giving the US a bomber that can stay modern for decades. Rivals like China and Russia are trying to build stealth aircraft, but they cannot yet match this pace. Their designs are slower, their upgrades are harder, and their programs remain years behind. The B-21 is not just stealth. It is built for speed of change. But this leads to another critical question. How does this new approach change the bomber's daily sustainment compared to the high costs of the B-2? Before we reveal the secret of why the B-21 redefines air power, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell. For all its power, the legendary B-2 Spirit came with one serious problem: maintenance. Its stealthy coatings were fragile. Every flight meant hours, sometimes days, of careful repair inside climate-controlled hangars. The result was that many B-2s became hangar queens, beautiful aircraft that were too difficult and too costly to keep in the air. The B-21 Raider was designed to end this cycle. It uses next-generation low-observable materials built from the start for daily operations. Instead of constant touch-ups, the coatings are durable, easier to maintain, and far more reliable in harsh conditions. This was one of the most important lessons learned from the B-2 program. Stealth cannot matter if the aircraft is grounded half the time. So the Raider was shaped not only for invisibility, but for sustainability. It is a bomber built to fly often, not just on rare planned missions. For the Air Force, this means a smaller fleet can still carry out continuous operations across the globe. For American taxpayers, it means lower costs and more value from every single aircraft. The shift is clear. Stealth is no longer enough on its own. Reliability is now just as important as radar and visibility. The Raider combines both, creating a weapon that is not only advanced but practical for everyday use. And that leads to the next stage of the story, because even the best bomber must have a home. So the question now is, where will these B-21 Raiders actually be based? The B-21 Raider is not just a prototype anymore. It is preparing for real squadrons. The first unit will stand up at Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota. After that, the bomber will move into Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri and Dyess Air Force Base in Texas. These locations will become the homes of America's newest bomber fleet. The plan is ambitious. The program of record calls for around 100 aircraft, enough to equip multiple squadrons and replace older bombers that are reaching the end of their service. The B-1B Lancer and even the B-2 Spirit will eventually give way to the Raider. By the late 2020s, the Air Force expects to declare Initial Operational Capability, or IOC. That means real units, real missions, and a bomber ready for both training and war. For the Air Force, this is not only about numbers. It is about building a force designed for both nuclear and conventional operations. A fleet of B-21s would be able to strike targets with either precision bombs or nuclear weapons, depending on the mission. This dual role has always been part of America's deterrent strategy. But with the Raider, it takes on new meaning in a world where rivals like China and Russia are expanding their own forces. The scale of the program shows its intent. This is not a handful of aircraft for display. It is a fleet meant to change the balance of power for decades to come. But that raises the next question. What roles will the B-21 play beyond traditional bombing? The B-21 Raider is often called a bomber, but that word alone no longer describes what it truly is. From the start, the Raider was built as a multi-mission platform. It is not only a long-range strike aircraft, it is also a nuclear deterrent and an advanced ISR platform, a system for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. In short, it is a flying network node, a stealthy command center in the sky, able to share data with fighters, satellites, and ships while remaining hidden from enemy radar. This makes the Raider far more than a weapon for dropping bombs. It becomes the glue that ties together all parts of modern warfare. In a conflict, it can direct strikes, collect intelligence, and still deliver its own payload. No other bomber has ever carried this combination of roles. For America's rivals, this creates a new problem. They cannot simply build defenses against stealthy bombs. They must prepare for a platform that can arrive unseen, gather information, direct attacks, and strike at the same time. It forces them to plan against a threat they cannot see and cannot easily stop. This is the heart of modern deterrence. The enemy must always assume the Raider is there, even when it cannot be detected. And that uncertainty shifts the balance of power. For the United States, this is the true promise of the B-21. It is not just a new bomber, it is a new kind of air weapon system. And that brings us back to the key question. What is the real reason the second B-21 Raider proves that air power itself is being redefined? The arrival of a second B-21 Raider proves the program is more than an idea. It is scalable, sustainable, and real. This is no longer about one secret jet hidden in a hangar. It is about a growing fleet, designed for decades of constant upgrades. The lesson is clear. Air power is not only about dropping bombs. It is about adaptability, about invisible stealth, and about networked dominance across every mission. With the Raider, the United States signals a new era. A future where America's skies are guarded by the most advanced bomber ever built. From 2015 to 2025, the story has moved from contract to rollout to flight and now to a fleet. And the question remains, will rivals ever catch up? Or has the US just reset the global race for air power? The story of the B-21 Raider shows that the future of American strength is not far away. It is already airborne. This bomber is more than a new aircraft. It is a symbol of how technology, planning, and determination can reshape the balance of power. With its digital design, its multi-role capability, and its daily ready stealth, the Raider redefines what air power means in the 21st century. It is not only about striking targets. It is about building an adaptable, connected, and enduring fleet. And that is why the B-21 is called a true game changer. This is only one chapter in the story of future weapons. Subscribe for more deep dives into the world's most advanced technology and military systems. And tell us, do you think the B-21 gives the US permanent air dominance? Or will China and Russia find answers? Share your thoughts below.